She stood in the kitchen, silently washing dishes as her heart pounded in her chest. Her husband was in the next room, and though there was no shouting that day, she knew how quickly calm could turn into chaos. She had thought about leaving 100 times, but where would she go with two small children and no money of her own? What would happen if he found her? What if no one believed her? I stayed, she later said, because I was terrified, because I thought I could fix him, because I didn't want my kids to grow up without a father. I stayed because I didn't know how not to. Stories like hers are far more common than many realize. From the outside, it may seem like a simple question: why didn't she just leave? But for those living inside the cycle of abuse, the answers are never simple. They are layered with fear, love, shame, hope, and survival. This article explores 8 deeply personal reasons why many victims remain in abusive relationships. These stories, shared by survivors, reveal not only the heartbreaking challenges they face, but also the strength it takes just to endure. If we want to truly support those experiencing abuse, we must begin by listening, not judging. Only then can we create a world where survivors feel safe enough to speak up and supported enough to walk away. 1. Distorted thinking. Being controlled, manipulated, and harmed by someone you trust can leave deep emotional scars. It's not just the pain of the abuse itself, it's the confusion, the self-doubt, and the heartbreaking belief that maybe it was somehow your fault. Abusers often twist reality, accusing and demeaning their victims until they begin to question their own worth and perception. This emotional wear and tear can lead to overwhelming guilt, shame, and despair. Many survivors have shared how they internalized the blame. "I honestly believed I deserved it," one said. Another revealed, "I felt so ashamed and embarrassed I thought I had caused it, that I had somehow triggered him." To survive, some minimized what they were going through, telling themselves it wasn't that bad. As one survivor put it, "I stayed because I didn't think emotional or financial abuse was real abuse. There were no bruises." Another said, "I didn't even realize what he did to me was rape. I didn't have the words for it back then." 2. Shattered sense of self-worth. Abuse doesn't just hurt physically, it slowly chips away at a person's identity, dignity, and sense of value. Repeated belittling, criticism, and emotional cruelty leave deep wounds that aren't always visible. Many survivors spoke of feeling emotionally crushed, as though the light inside them had dimmed. Some shared heartbreaking reflections. "He convinced me I was nothing, that no one would ever care about me, and I truly believed I was to blame, like I had done something to deserve the pain." This kind of emotional erosion doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of being worn down, piece by piece, until a person begins to forget their own worth. 3. Paralyzing fear. Fear is one of the most powerful tools an abuser uses, an invisible chain that keeps victims silent, small, and stuck. It's not just the fear of physical violence, but the emotional terror that comes with knowing someone you once trusted can hurt you in unimaginable ways. For many women, this fear becomes a prison, making even the thought of escape feel dangerous. One survivor confided, "I lived in constant fear. I knew if I tried to leave, he would make me pay for it. I was terrified of what he might do." Another shared a chilling memory. "He threatened to track me down, hurt everyone I loved, even our children, just to make me suffer before he ended my life." Leaving isn't always a simple choice. For many, it's a matter of survival, not just for themselves, but for the people they care about most. 4. The need to save them. Many survivors spoke of a heartbreaking hope, the belief that if they just loved hard enough, they could heal the brokenness in their partner. There was a longing to be the one who stayed, the one who loved through the darkness, the one who made it better. "I truly believed my love could reach the part of him that was hurting," one woman shared. "If I stayed strong, maybe he would change." For some, it was about loyalty, about holding on to a promise made in better days. "I told myself I wouldn't give up on him, that I could be the one person who stayed and showed him what real love looked like." Others were moved by compassion, even when it came at the cost of their own well-being. "He lost his father, turned to drinking, and told me God wouldn't forgive me if I walked away. He said he needed me to save him, and I believed that for a long time." These stories reveal a painful truth. Sometimes the desire to save someone else drowns out the voice that says, "Save yourself." 5. Staying for the sake of the children. For many women, the decision to stay wasn't about fear or denial, it was about love. A fierce, protective love for their children that often meant sacrificing their own safety. The instinct to shield their kids from harm became stronger than the need to escape their own pain. I was terrified that if he stopped hurting me, he'd turn to the children, one mother shared, and I couldn't let that happen. Their lives meant more to me than mine ever did. Some endured years of abuse in silence, believing it was the only way to protect their children from greater harm. I stayed for 2 decades, and another woman revealed, doing everything I could to keep them safe even as I was breaking inside. Others clung to the hope that staying might give their children a sense of family. I just wanted my son to grow up with his father, one mother admitted, her voice filled with quiet sorrow. Behind each of these choices was a mother's heart, bruised, burdened, but still fighting for the ones she loved most. 6. The weight of family and the past. For many survivors, the roots of their pain stretch back years, even generations. Early exposure to violence and dysfunction blurred the lines between love and control, normal and harmful. When abuse is what you grow up seeing, it can shape what you believe love is supposed to look like. One woman reflected, "I grew up watching my father hurt my mother. I didn't realize I had chosen someone just like him until it was too late." Another wrote, "When you're raised in chaos, you stop recognizing the danger. You start thinking the wolves are just part of the pack." On top of that, cultural, familial, and religious expectations added crushing pressure. Some were told that leaving would mean abandoning faith or bringing shame to their families. "My mother warned me that God would turn his back on me if I ended my marriage," one survivor said. These deeply ingrained beliefs often made it even harder to walk away, not just from a relationship, but from the identity and expectations imposed since childhood. 7. Financial traps and sacrifices. For many survivors, leaving wasn't just an emotional decision, it was a financial impossibility. The fear of having nowhere to go, of not being able to feed their children or survive on their own, became a powerful chain keeping them in place. "I had no support system," one woman shared. 2 small children, no money, and this overwhelming guilt because he had a brain injury from a car crash, and I felt responsible for him too. Some were prevented from holding a job either through controlling behavior or from injuries that made it impossible to work. Others were financially exploited, their trust betrayed in the most practical, painful way. "He opened credit cards in my name," one survivor said quietly. "By the time he was done, I was buried in debt I didn't even know existed." For so many, financial abuse wasn't just about money, it was about control, fear, and survival. And it made the idea of escape feel more like a dream than a real option. 8. The pain of isolation. One of the most devastating tools an abuser uses is isolation, cutting a person off from the very people who might help them see the truth or offer a way out. It doesn't always happen all at once. Sometimes it's subtle, a slow unraveling of connections until the victim is left feeling utterly alone. For some, the isolation was physical. "I was trapped in the middle of nowhere," one woman recalled. "He used our son as leverage. He knew I wouldn't leave him behind, so I stayed." For others, the separation was emotional and psychological. One survivor remembered being told, "You can choose your friends and family or me. You don't get both." And over time, when the price of connection became conflict, many chose silence. Being isolated doesn't just mean being alone, it means losing your lifelines, your voice, and your sense of self, until it feels like the abuser is the only person left in your world. The stories you've heard today are not just words, they are echoes of real pain, strength, and survival. Behind every reason to stay is a person who fought silently, who carried fear, love, and hope all at once. Understanding these reasons isn't about justifying abuse, it's about opening our hearts to the truth so we can become part of the solution. If this video touched you, or if you have a story of your own, we invite you to share it in the comments below. Your voice matters, and you never know who might find strength in your words. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories, honest conversations, and messages of healing and hope. And if this message resonated with you, please consider liking and sharing. It could help someone who feels alone realize they're not. Thank you for watching, and remember, Compassion saves lives.